What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so before I go into the video, I want to give a thanks to Melvin for his donation to the channel. I just saw it as I was recording this video, so I want to thank you, Melvin, for your donation. And I want to thank everybody that donates to this channel and everybody that supports this channel. All right, because it pretty much is you guys, man, that keep this channel going. Like by that I mean interacting with you guys, exchanging information with you guys. I've learned from you guys, what I'm saying? Seriously. Like I've learned a lot of stuff just interacting with with people in the comment section. Some of you guys are hilarious. I do think sometimes you guys go a little too far with the LeBron hate, but at the same time, I can't blame you for feeling the way that you feel because of the way the media operates, man. I can't blame you, you know. But all I'm gonna say is though, it's cyclical, man. This shit. Like this is all I'm gonna say. I remember the last year that Jordan played, right? Even I, as a Bulls fan, thought that they were going too far with the hype. Like, look, man, like since when is sweat beads a statistic? Like, shit like that was getting a little bit out of hand. Okay. Um, then when they were, hyping Kobe for a while, I remember there was hyping Kobe for a while. This was after he went through his trials and tribulations when they didn't want anything to do with him. Then when Kobe was having a year that I think should have been an MVP year, the year that he averaged 35.4 points per game and dragged that Lakers team to the playoffs, onward to when he won his two championships, the media was using him for marketing purposes. You know what I'm saying? He was, yeah. So then they moved on to LeBron. All right. Now LeBron's had like a decade of this, more or less. But they're going to move on to Zion. So I be telling LeBron fans all the time, look, don't get mad when about 3 years from now it's Zion mania. Don't get mad, okay? Don't sit up there and be like, oh man, that's some bullshit too, Raw. Every fucking day I turn on ESPN and all they do is talk about fucking Zion. Every motherfucking day, Zion. Man, I'm sick of this shit. Hey, try to tell you. It's different when they talk about somebody that you're not, rooting for all the fucking time. Every time you turn TV on, look, goddamn, Trey Young could have a 60-point game, right? You turn on fucking ESPN uh, First Take. What do you think Zion needs to do next to reach that next level? I think Zion, he's having a great year. He averaging 30.5 points, 12 rebounds, 5 assists. I mean, look, man, LeBron's a great player, but even LeBron never averaged double-digit rebounds, man. So, Zion's doing some crazy, incredible things, man. He's shooting 69% from the floor. And, man, look, man, I like Jordan. I like LeBron. Zion might be the GOAT, y'all. LeBron fans be like, motherfucker, go! This nigga ain't been playing for 3 goddamn years. And how the fuck he the goddamn go? LeBron's still playing in his 20th year. And y'all talking about, like, all right, okay. All right, warned you. Warned you. These niggas ain't your friends. Chris Broussard ain't your friend, nigga. He just hyping. He's a hype man. But let me get to the point, though, of this video. Karl Malone. I did a video like this a couple years ago where I said that I thought Karl Malone was the greatest player never to win a ring. You can make the same argument for Charles Barkley. While I do think Barkley is better peak for peak, I think when you take into account Malone's longevity, plus the fact that he went to 2 finals as opposed to Barkley's one, 2 league MVPs as opposed to Barkley's one, I give him the edge. Even though I do believe now that Karl Malone's second league MVP was more of a career achievement award. A little bit politics was in play with that one. I think that 99 season there was better candidates for that one. I think Chris Webber, in my opinion, should have gotten it, but also other candidates were Tim Duncan, Allen Iverson, and Alonzo Mourning. I think were better, more deserving candidates for that award. Um, but if you remember the last few years that Karl Malone played, man, the last few years that he played, they referred to him as the greatest power forward of all time. Now, since then, he's been superseded by Tim Duncan, and rightfully so. But it's like Karl Malone, it's kind of faded a little bit, just a little bit, man, in this winning or nothing culture that we have now. You know what I'm saying? He's faded just a little bit. And when you think about it, he doesn't get a fair shake, man. Because when you look at two things, when you look at his teams and you look at his competition throughout his career, I think he did pretty fucking good, man. Now the one knock on him, you look at his regular season numbers, right? Look at his regular season numbers, and they're great. For his career, I think he shot 51% from the floor, 25 points a game, like 10 rebounds, like just awesome career numbers for a guy that played 19 seasons. When we look at his playoff numbers, his field goal percentage is way down to 46%. I think his scoring average drops a little bit to 24 points per game. Some of his numbers just, you're like, wow, like he just really didn't show up in the playoffs. You know, he underperformed. But I think that's not fair though, because you got to look at certain things. Number one, when you look at Michael Jordan, he had Scottie Pippen. When you look at Kobe, earlier he had Shaq. Later on, he had Pau Gasol, Andrew Bynum. You know what I'm saying? Uh, LeBron, when he's won championships, he's had, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, later on, Kevin Love, uh, Kyrie Irving. You know what I'm saying? Um, the doctor, Julius Irving, he didn't win a championship until he got Moses Malone, one of the all-time great players. Bird, Robert Parrish, Kevin McHale. My point is, you know, every great player has had some help. Isaiah Thomas, Joe Dumars, Mark Aguirre. They didn't start winning until they got Mark Aguirre, who I think should be in the Hall of Fame as well. The point is, Karl Malone never really had another great player like that. Yes, he had John Stockton. And John Stockton is one of the great players of all time. Okay. But he was, number one, a pass first point guard. Number two, his size. He was only 6'1", 170 pounds. And three, the era he played in. It was not conducive to a small point guard being that dominant on an offensive basis, especially when it was small and unathletic like Stockton. I'm not trying to say he wasn't a great player, he was. But Karl Malone, it was easy for teams to key on him. Okay, he didn't really have, like, the best teammate that he played with in the championship years or that championship window, because I really don't want to include Daryl Griffith because by that time Daryl Griffith was falling off. Um, I would say maybe Jeff Malone. Jeff Malone, like that. That's probably the best player he played with. And Jeff was on the downside of his career when he got to the Jazz. He was going toward the downside. Jeff Hornacek's up there, but Jeff Hornacek kind of has the same problems that Stockton had. He was a great pure shooter, one of the greatest shooters in the history of the NBA. But he himself, I think he was only 6 foot. What was Hornacek? 6'3", 6'2", 6'3", 190. He wasn't that much bigger than John Stockton. So the thing about it, the Utah Jazz never really had Um, a lot of he, Karl Malone didn't have that other versatile or dynamic player that could stretch the floor for him, and so teams couldn't just key on him the way they could key on uh, the way they couldn't key on other guys. You know, basically what I'm trying to say. Now they did have some good players on those Jazz teams, but not nobody of the dimension of a Karl Malone. So that's why oftentimes if Karl Malone struggled, it was a loss for the Jazz. If he struggled, they lost. I mean, almost without exception. So usually when they won, Karl Malone had to play well, and John Stockton had. It's like this: either John Stockton, whenever they won, Karl Malone usually had to play well, or in the games he didn't play well, uh, other guys around him had to knock down mid range, knock down some shots. Um, whether it was later on Antoine Carr knocking down some of the mid range jumpers, whether it was Hornacek or some of these other guys knocking down some shots and some threes, and more importantly, especially in that era, shutting other teams down from a defensive standpoint. And that's what they started doing when they became a championship level team. Is they improved defensively. They had like these quick guards like Howard Isley. They had some energy guys like what was that guy named Greg Foster? I think it was. Of course, they had Shannon Anderson and Byron Russell. You know what I'm saying? They had like some guys, some quick guys, like some high energy, good defensive players coming off that bench. But that's partially one of the reasons why it was hard for the Utah Jazz to win a championship. He just didn't have, he didn't have a lot of superstar or all-star talent around him other than John Stockton. Even the Sonics, it was Gary Payton, who was a little bit bigger. Like Payton was 6'4". He's a little bit bigger. He had Sean Kemp, but there's that. And then also, I think which is more important, they unfortunately had a tendency to play against the hardest teams in the playoffs, man. I mean, it's not really debatable. Like, if you really look back at the Utah Jazz year for year, they had a really tough fucking schedule, man. Like, starting all the way to when they made that surprise run against the Showtime Lakers in '88, I think it was. I can't remember what series it was. I think it was the semifinals. They played the Lakers to 7 games. It was a surprise. Um, the same Lakers that went on to win the championship, their last championship in the Magic Showtime era. But that's just an example of who they had to play in the playoffs. Then later on, I think they played like the Golden State Warriors, like the TMZ era Golden State Warriors. They played the Phoenix Suns when Tom Chambers was like eating up the league, averaging 27 points a game. That's the same team that had Jeff Hornacek when he was in his prime. Like I said, if I had to compare Chris Middleton to any player back then, it was probably like he's a bigger version of Jeff Hornacek. Um, you know, Later on, then they played uh, the Portland Trailblazers, the Clyde Drexler Portland Trailblazers that went to the finals against the Pistons, and then the Bulls in the early '90s. They played against them in the playoffs. Then they kept playing against the Seattle Supersonics, or they would play against the Houston Rockets. You know, they just they never had like a path like LeBron. See, that's the thing. That's why I don't want to be like just shitting on LeBron, man. But LeBron did have an easy go about it in the Eastern Conference this past decade, man. Like Karl Malone and them, they went up against killers. Like all the way through their run. Like toward the end, I think they played like Chris Webber and his Sacramento Kings. You know, I think toward the end and shit. When he was with Utah, you know what I'm saying? Karl Malone just couldn't catch a break, man. Like it just if you just go throughout his entire fucking career, man. Even his last year with the Lakers, that team was supposed to win the title, man. And they went all the way to the finals, even though Karl Malone was on one fucking leg and he was half the player that he normally was. And Gary Payton just fell apart all of a sudden. They play against a team, the Pistons, that everybody thought they were going to beat and got beaten 5. If it wasn't for Kobe's buzzer beater, it would have been a sweep. Then before that, you know what I'm saying, whether it was Chris Webber's Kings, I think, or Portland Jailblazers era, or the Dallas Mavericks when Dirk was starting to get going,